You think you know paradise. You picture white sand beaches, coconut trees, a gentle escape from the world. But what if I told you the real story of this paradise is far more complex? What if I told you that in its capital, thousands of people live their entire lives inside a cemetery, raising children on top of tombs? That the most solemn ritual of mourning a loved one can transform into an all-night gambling party. The Philippines is not the simple tropical getaway you've seen in brochures. It's an archipelago of over 7,000 islands and 110 million stories, a place of profound contradictions, where faith and folklore, tragedy and celebration, chaos and community collide in the most unexpected ways. This isn't a travel guide. This is an expedition into the heart of a nation's soul. So, let's go beyond the beaches and uncover the Philippines. Your first real immersion into the Philippines isn't a landmark, it's a full-body sensory assault, a symphony of organized chaos where the lead instrument is, without question, the jeepney. To call these vehicles buses is a profound understatement. They are roaring, kaleidoscopic expressions of identity, the undisputed kings of the road. Their story is a perfect microcosm of the Filipino spirit. Born from U.S. military jeeps left behind after World War II, they were not merely adopted, they were reborn. Filipinos, driven by a combination of necessity and an innate creative flair, stretched their frames, welded on roofs, added two long, parallel benches, and then unleashed a torrent of folk art upon their metal skin. Each jeepney is a rolling art gallery, a deeply personal statement. The hood might be adorned with a forest of chrome horses, the sides covered in vibrant, airbrushed murals of the Last Supper, Marvel superheroes, or a portrait of the driver's own child. Religious iconography sits comfortably next to NBA logos. Pithy slogans like "God is my co-pilot" or "Kadas Eng Saudi," the fruit of labor in Saudi Arabia, are painted across their bumpers. This is not just decoration, it's a declaration of faith, family, and pop culture. It is the Filipino concept of diskarta, a unique brand of resourceful, creative problem-solving, rendered in steel and paint. They are loud, they belch diesel fumes, and they are unapologetically, wonderfully kitsch. They are the lifeblood of the nation, carrying millions of Filipinos to work, to school, to life, all for just a few pesos. And what happens when these steel beasts grow old? They don't just go to a scrapyard. They retire to what are affectionately called rainbow graveyards. Vast, sun-beaten lots where their rusty, yet still colorful, bodies line up in silent rows. They become hauntingly beautiful backdrops for photographers and a playground for children, a testament to a life of tireless service. The jeepney is the perfect metaphor for the Philippines itself, a hybrid creation born from American history and Filipino ingenuity. A symbol of resilience that refuses to fade away, even in death. Accompanying the visual chaos of the jeepney is the sound. An almost constant, unending chorus of car horns. In most countries, a horn is a monosyllabic scream of anger or frustration. Here, it's a nuanced language with its own grammar. A quick, polite double honk, beep beep, is a thank you for letting you pass, or a gentle excuse me. A single sharp beep is a hello to a friend spotted on the sidewalk. A long sustained blast is a clear warning. I'm a large bus and I am not stopping. In the chaotic intersections without traffic lights, a rhythmic series of honks becomes a form of echolocation, a way of negotiating passage by saying, "I'm coming through from the left. Let's coordinate." A system that often replaces the need for a turn signal. To an outsider, it's noise pollution. To a local, it's a necessary and surprisingly effective conversation on wheels. Woven into this urban tapestry, Finding pockets of peace amidst the pandemonium are the dogs. They are everywhere, lunging in the shade of a sari store, trotting confidently through open-air markets, following a group of children home from school. To a visitor from the West, they all look like strays, ownerless and neglected. But this perception misses a deeper truth. Many are what Filipinos proudly call aspins, a portmanteau of a Song Pinoy or Filipino dog. The name itself is an act of defiance, a grassroots campaign to give dignity to a native, mixed-breed dog instead of using the pejorative term askal, street dog. Many Aspens operate under a remarkable model of community ownership. They don't belong to one person. They belong to the neighborhood, the barangay. The family at the corner store provides a bowl of water. The lady 2 doors down shares her dinner leftovers, and the local security guard knows each one by name. They are a living, breathing part of the public space. A gentle, 4-legged reminder of the communal spirit that underpins everything here, a concept known as bayanihan. They are loyal, not to a single master, but to the collective that sustains them. This relaxed, communal attitude extends to the people themselves, especially when the tropical sun is at its most punishing. Walk through any city at midday, and you'll witness a silent, collective surrender to heat and fatigue. A construction worker fast asleep on a pile of sandbags, his head resting on a hard hat. A university student, book open on her chest, napping on a park bench. A taxi driver, door ajar for ventilation, curled up in his front seat. In the West, sleeping in public might be seen as a sign of vagrancy or impropriety. Here, it's a vital and entirely normal part of the daily rhythm. In a country with a sweltering climate and often grueling hours or exhausting commutes, the siesta isn't a luxury. It's a fundamental survival mechanism. It's a collective, unspoken agreement that in the face of heat and hard work, the human need for rest is a right, not a privilege to be hidden away. The true codes of the Philippines are not written on street signs or in legal statutes. They are unwritten, deeply embedded in the intricate web of human relationships. At the absolute center of this web, the anchor for all social existence, is the family. Not just the nuclear family of parents and children, but a sprawling, interconnected, and fiercely loyal network of aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins, godparents, and close family friends. This bond is so powerful that it dictates everything from political alliances and business partnerships to the simple act of sharing a meal. Within this familial universe, you'll find another one of the country's most fascinating paradoxes. While much of Asia remains deeply patriarchal, in the Philippines, women often hold the real power. In many households, the woman is the lang tahanan, the light of the home. This isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a literal description of her role as the chief financial officer, the head of household operations, and the final arbiter in major family decisions. It is common practice for a husband to hand over his entire salary to his wife, not out of societal pressure, but out of a deep-seated cultural trust that women are more prudent, more forward-thinking, and better managers of the family's future. This isn't a modern feminist movement, it's a legacy. Historians point to pre-colonial Filipino societies where women, the Babaylan shamanesses, were spiritual leaders, healers, and community advisors who could own property and lead tribes. The strong Filipina of today is simply carrying a torch that has been burning for centuries. This deep-rooted sense of connection is governed by a powerful, unwritten law utang na loob. It translates literally to a debt from within, but its meaning is far more profound. It is a debt of gratitude, an eternal, unquantifiable obligation to someone who has done you a significant favor. If a family member pays for your education, or a friend helps you find a job, you carry a lifelong utang na loob to them. This shapes everything. It's why children feel a profound duty to care for their aging parents. It's why a politician who builds a basketball court in a village can count on their votes for decades. It is the social glue of the nation, but it also has a shadow side, enabling systems of patronage and corruption where loyalty is valued above merit. This web of obligation and the desire for social harmony, a value called pakikisama, profoundly shapes daily etiquette. Consider the infamous Filipino time. If you're invited to a party at 7 p.m., arriving at 7 p.m. is considered almost awkward, even rude. It suggests you're there for the schedule, not for the people. Arriving 30 to 60 minutes late is the accepted and expected norm. This isn't about laziness, it's a reflection of a culture that prioritizes the relaxed flow of human interaction over the rigid tyranny of the clock. This prioritization of harmony is why strangers are rarely treated as such. You won't be addressed with a cold "sir" or. Instead, you'll be called kuya's older brother or ate's older sister by a shopkeeper or a tricycle driver half your age. It's an instant, verbal adoption into the extended family, a linguistic gesture that dissolves the distance between you and them. You'll also see children performing mano po, a beautiful act of respect where they take an elder's hand and gently press it to their forehead, a silent request for a blessing that connects generations. But this profound desire to avoid confrontation, this absolute premium on pakisama, also explains one of the most confusing and frustrating modern phenomena for anyone trying to date or do business here. The Philippines has been called the ghosting capital of the world. You might have an incredible conversation, a flurry of enthusiastic texts, a seemingly instant connection, only for them to vanish into thin air. Complete unnerving silence. No explanation, no goodbye. For an outsider, it feels personal, dismissive, and cruel. But from a Filipino perspective, rooted in the fear of causing disharmony, disappearing is often seen as a kinder, gentler alternative to saying no directly. It avoids a direct, awkward rejection that could cause the other person to lose face. Haya. It is a misguided act of harmony, a way to avoid conflict that ends up creating a vortex of confusion and misunderstanding. It's a perfect example of how a cultural virtue, when taken to an extreme in the digital age, can become a social vice. This preference for harmony over confrontation hints at a deeper spirituality, one that blurs the lines between worlds in ways that can be both beautiful and deeply unsettling. There is no more powerful example of this than a Filipino funeral. In many parts of the country, a wake or lamay can last for an entire week. It is not a quiet, somber affair whispered in hushed tones. It's a vibrant, round-the-clock social event. The coffin, often with a glass viewing panel, sits in the family living room while a constant stream of friends, neighbors, and relatives gather. They share food, mountains of it. They tell stories, they reminisce, they laugh. And right there, just feet from the deceased, they play cards, poker, puzoy, mahjong, the clatter of chips, and the calling of hands going on all through the night. To an outsider, it can seem shockingly disrespectful, but the reasons are deeply woven into the cultural psyche. First, there's a pre-colonial belief that the living must stay awake to guard the body from evil spirits, the malevolent aswang, who might steal the soul of the departed or even the body itself. The games, the noise, and the light keep everyone alert and the spirits at bay. Second, and more pragmatically, A portion of the winnings from these games is often pooled as abuloy, a financial contribution to help the bereaved family cover the staggering funeral costs. It is a moment of communal grief, profound solidarity, and, bizarrely, festivity. It is life, in all its noisy, messy glory, asserting itself, loudly and defiantly, in the very presence of death. This intimate proximity to death takes on a more permanent, shocking form in Manila's sprawling North Cemetery. This is not just a graveyard, it is a city within a city. Home to over 1 million buried souls, it is also the literal, year-round home for an estimated 10,000 of the living. Driven by extreme poverty and a critical urban housing shortage, families have built entire communities within the cemetery walls. They construct makeshift houses on top of grand mausoleums and in the narrow alleyways between tombs. Here, the full spectrum of life unfolds in its most surreal setting. Children fly kites over gravestones. Women hang their laundry on lines strung between marble angels. Small convenience stores, or sari-sari stores, sell snacks and soda to both residents and mourners. There are even karaoke machines and basketball hoops. It is a surreal, heartbreaking testament to human adaptability, a community forged out of desperation, where the line between the living and the dead has been completely, tangibly erased. This blending of worlds is also reflected in the nation's faith. The Philippines is the bastion of Catholicism in Asia, a legacy of over 300 years of Spanish colonial rule. But this is not the sterile, dogmatic Catholicism of the Vatican. It is a unique, vibrant brand of folk Catholicism where saints and the Virgin Mary coexist with a deeply ingrained belief in animist spirits, mystical healers, albulario, and a pantheon of mythical creatures from local folklore. This syncretism is on full display during religious festivals like the Feast of the Black Nazarene in Manila, where millions of barefoot devotees risk life and limb to touch a dark, centuries-old statue of Christ, believing in its miraculous healing powers. It's seen in the reverence for anting, amulets believed to grant supernatural protection. And in the most remote mountain regions, like the Cordilleras, this blend becomes even more stark. Here, some indigenous communities still practice ancient rituals that shock the modern world. During special ceremonies, dog meat is sometimes consumed. This is not a common food source. In fact, it's illegal and frowned upon by the vast majority of Filipinos. But a sacred, ceremonial offering to ancestors, a practice that predates the arrival of Christianity by centuries. It is a powerful, and for many, uncomfortable, reminder of the deep, pre-colonial spiritual currents that still flow beneath the surface of this Catholic nation. And, perhaps the most vibrant expression of this blended, celebratory culture is the Fiesta. Every town, every district has a patron saint and an annual festival in their honor. And the centerpiece of many fiestas is not a solemn religious procession, but a glitzy, no-holds-barred beauty pageant. These are not small-time, local contests. They are massive, professionally produced events that consume the entire community. The local government might shut down, schools might close. And it's not just for young women. There are pageants for children, Little Miss Philippines, for married women, for senior citizens, and, most visibly and joyously, pageants. In a deeply Catholic nation, the widespread, mainstream, and joyous celebration of these LGBTQ+ events is a stunning contradiction, a testament to a culture that, despite its conservative religious facade, has a deep-seated, irrepressible capacity for acceptance, performance, and flamboyant celebration. To truly understand the Filipino soul, you must understand the Filipino plate. And the foundation of that plate, the sun around which all other foods orbit, is rice. Rice is not a side dish. Rice is not a carbohydrate option. Rice is the meal. Everything else, the morsel of meat, the piece of fish, the spoonful of vegetables, is simply olam, the flavorful accompaniment whose sole purpose is to be eaten with rice. Fast food chains like McDonald's and Jollibee serve their fried chicken with a mandatory scoop of steamed rice, not fries. Some Filipinos eat rice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and a meal without its comforting, neutral presence feels incomplete, unsatisfying, almost a snack. It is the fuel, the comfort, the constant in a world of beautiful uncertainty. Around this constant revolves a universe of flavors that can be both delightful and daring, especially on the street. Filipino street food is an adventure in textures and tastes. You have isaw, skewered and grilled chicken or pork intestines, with a slightly chewy, smoky flavor. There's Betamax, coagulated pork blood cut into rectangles, grilled, and named for its uncanny resemblance to an old cassette tape. And of course, there is the ultimate test of culinary courage, the infamous balut, a fertilized duck egg between 16 and 21 days old, boiled and eaten in the shell. Cracking it open reveals a savory broth, which you sip first, then the solid yolk, and finally, the main event, a partially developed embryo, complete with tiny, soft bones and the beginnings of feathers. For Filipinos, it's a beloved, protein-rich snack, often enjoyed with a sprinkle of salt and a dash of vinegar. For an outsider, it can be a profound psychological hurdle, a true rite of passage into the heart of Filipino street cuisine. But there is one dish, born not of tradition but of desperation, that tells a darker, more complex story. It's called pagpag. The word literally means to shake off the dust. It refers to leftover food, mostly fried chicken and other meat scraps, salvaged from the garbage bins of fast food restaurants. Collectors, known as magpapagpag, gather these discarded morsels, wash them, recook them in a new sauce of tomato or soy, and sell them for as little as 20 pesos, less than 50 US cents. A portion in the poorest urban slums. For millions of Filipinos living on the absolute edge of survival, pagpag is not a choice. It is the only way to afford a meal with meat. It is a gut-wrenching symbol of the country's stark, persistent inequality, but it is also an incredible, heartbreaking example of human resilience and the powerful, instinctual refusal to let anything go to waste. Yet, Filipino cuisine is not all about shock and survival. It is also about joy, creativity, and control. This is best seen in the national love for two things: soreness and sauces. The Filipino palate adores the acidic tang, best exemplified in the national dish, sinigang, a tamarind-based sour soup that can make your mouth pucker in the most delightful way. And this love for flavor culminates in the culture of sausawan, or dipping sauces. A meal of grilled fish or fried pork is rarely served with a single pre-made sauce. Instead, the table becomes a laboratory. Small bowls are laid out with an array of condiments: soy sauce, sharp cane vinegar, the juice of the small citrus fruit calamansi, pungent fish sauce patis, fiery red chilies, silly, and chopped onions. Each person becomes a chemist, an artist, mixing and matching these base elements to create their own perfect, personalized dip. It is an act of empowerment, a small but delicious declaration of individuality at the dinner table. It's a reminder that even in a culture that values community so highly, there is always room for personal taste. This spirit of adaptation and improvisation isn't just a social trait. It is a skill forged by the very land itself. A land of breathtaking beauty and relentless, unforgiving power. On the island of Bohol, you can witness the otherworldly landscape of the Chocolate Hills, more than once, 200 perfectly symmetrical, cone-shaped mounds that stretch to the horizon. In the dry season, the green grass that covers them withers and turns a rich cocoa brown, making them look like a vast field of giant Hershey's Kisses. Geologists explain that they are weathered limestone formations, the remnants of an ancient coral reef uplifted from the sea. But local legends, far more romantic, tell of a battle between two giants who hurled rocks and earth at each other for days, or of a heartbroken giant whose tears turned into the hills. Nearby, on the same island, stands another treasure, the Baclayan Church, a National Historic Landmark built in the early 18th century. What makes it extraordinary is its construction material. It was built almost entirely out of coral stone, harvested from the nearby sea, and the mortar used to bind these massive blocks together was a unique mixture of river sand, limestone, and, it is said, millions of egg whites. The result is a structure that has stood for centuries, its thick walls embedded with the fossilized patterns of ancient sea creatures. This land of wonders is also a land of peril. The country sits squarely on the Pacific Ring of Fire, one of the most seismically active regions on the planet. This means power lies just beneath the surface, a fact made manifest by the Taal volcano. It's a geological nesting doll, a volcano, inside a lake, which is itself inside the caldera of a much larger, ancient supervolcano. It's one of the most picturesque and dangerous places in the country, a constant, simmering reminder of nature's volatility. That volatility is released constantly. The Philippines experiences an average of 20 earthquakes a day. Most are micro-quakes, too small to be felt by humans, but the threat of the big one looms large. Earthquake drills are a routine part of life, from elementary schools to corporate offices. And if the ground isn't shaking, it's probably flooding. During the monsoon season, from June to November, a few hours of heavy rain can turn the streets of Manila into murky, impassable rivers. But what's truly astonishing isn't the depth of the water, but the unfazed reaction of the people. It's met with a kind of cheerful, pragmatic resignation. Kids build makeshift rafts out of styrofoam coolers. Vendors push their food carts through waist-deep water. Life, somehow, finds a way to go on. This is often celebrated as Filipino resilience. But it's a term worth examining critically. Is it a noble cultural strength? Or is it a coping mechanism born from a long history of institutional failure and a lack of adequate public infrastructure? The answer, like most things here, is complicated. This resilience has also been tested by man-made disasters. For years, the Philippines was notorious as one of the world's worst plastic polluters, largely due to its sachet economy. With low daily incomes, many people can't afford a full bottle of shampoo or a large bag of coffee. Instead, they buy single-use plastic sachets for almost everything. The result was billions of non-recyclable packets clogging waterways and choking the oceans. But what's remarkable is that the change didn't just come from the top down. It came from the ground up, in the spirit of bayanihan. Communities started their own weekend cleanup drives. Students learned to turn plastic waste into bricks. For construction, supermarkets began offering discounts for bringing reusable bags. It is a slow, arduous, ongoing battle, but it shows a nation beginning to heal a wound it inflicted upon itself, one small, collective act at a time. So how does a society hold itself together amidst such chaos, contradiction, and challenge? It builds its own unique architecture of identity, and one of the most powerful, yet often physically absent, pillars of this architecture is the overseas Filipino worker, or OFW. Nearly 10% of the country's population lives and works abroad, sending money back home. They are the nurses in London, the sailors on the high seas, the domestic helpers in Hong Kong, the engineers in Dubai. They are called the Bagong Bayani, the new heroes, because their remittances are a literal lifeline for their families and a cornerstone of the national economy. The most potent symbol of their love and sacrifice is the balikbayan box. It's a simple, large cardboard box, but to a Filipino family, it is so much more. It's a portal. OFWs spend months meticulously filling these boxes with items that are either too expensive or unavailable back home brand, name chocolate, bars of soap, designer sneakers, toys, canned goods. They pack it so tightly, with such precision, it's an art form in itself. Shipping this box home is a physical manifestation of their presence, a tangible way of saying, even though I am thousands of miles away, I am still taking care of you. I have not forgotten you. This sense of collective identity is reinforced visually back home by the pervasive culture of uniforms. From the first day of elementary school, all the way through the final year of university, students wear them. So do bank tellers, security guards, flight attendants, and fast food workers. In a society with vast income disparity, the uniform is a great social equalizer. It erases, at least on the surface, the visible signs of wealth or poverty and fosters a sense of belonging to a larger group. A team. It's a visual representation of order and discipline in a society that often feels chaotic. You see this theme of belonging, even in the most intimidating situations. Outside nearly every bank, convenience store, and Jollibee stands a security guard, often armed with a handgun or a shotgun. For a visitor from a country with strict gun control, it can be deeply unnerving. But then, the guard with the shotgun will offer a wide, genuine smile, open the door for you, and greet you with a cheerful, "Good morning, ma'am, sir." Their purpose is presence and prevention, but their execution is pure Filipino hospitality. They are not there to intimidate customers. They are there to make them feel safe. It's another of the nation's delightful contradictions. This informal, personal touch extends to the most fundamental marker of identity, one's name. It is not at all unusual here to meet professionals named Pepsi, Cherry, Honey, or Boy. You'll encounter politicians nicknamed Bongbong or business contacts named Baby. These are not just nicknames, they are often their official, legal names, printed on passports and contracts. The naming tradition is wonderfully creative and playful. Some names are blends of the parents' names. A Joseph and a Maria might name their son Jomar. Others are simply chosen because they sound fun, catchy, and warm. It reflects a culture that values approachability and a personal touch over formal tradition. And what makes all of this accessible to an outsider? What unlocks the door to all these stories is language. English is an official language of the Philippines, taught in schools from a young age. As a result, the Philippines is one of the largest English-speaking nations on Earth. This proficiency has made it a global hub for the call center industry. But for a traveler, its significance is far greater. It means you can have a deep, meaningful conversation with almost anyone, from a university professor to a fisherman mending his nets. It removes the first and highest barrier to understanding, and it allows you to hear these stories in all their complexity and beauty firsthand. The Philippines is a country that defies any easy definition. It is a nation of survivors and singers, of deep faith and playful irreverence. It is a place where people live in cemeteries and sing at funerals, where armed guards are your friendliest greeters, and where Christmas joy starts in September. It is a nation shaped by 300 years in a Spanish convent and 50 years in Hollywood, leaving it with a unique, multifaceted identity that is both Asian and Latin, deeply traditional and hyper-modern. To travel here is to learn that resilience isn't about avoiding hardship. It's about finding joy and community within it. It's about learning to laugh in a flood, to sing next to a coffin, and to build a home wherever you can. It's a profound lesson in the beautiful, chaotic, and utterly unbreakable spirit of humanity. What part of this journey surprised you the most? Share your thoughts or your own stories in the comments below. If this story opened up a new perspective for you, please share this video with a fellow traveler who loves to go deeper than the destination. And subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating and misunderstood places. Thank you for exploring with me.